welcome out. Here's another list in our list of lists regarding college. This one is college professors' grading secrets. Knowing how your professor grades is like knowing how your employer hires, fires, and promotes. This information will leave out the guesswork and give you an inside track on writing those papers and taking those tests. Number one, if you think every word is being read, think again. Most professors have a lot of papers to grade over the semester. I guesstimated that any given full semester, I was reading War and Peace, which is over 1,200 pages. Professors read the first page or so very carefully, looking for patterns and clues as to the writing level. Then they scan to see if you've stuck to the thesis, developed your paragraphs properly, and have no major persistent errors. That's about 15 minutes. With most professors having over 100 students, that's close to 30 hours a week just reading papers. So if they were giving each paper 15 minutes, that's about 30 hours out of a work week. So they've got 10 hours left to do all the rest of things that professors are supposed to do in a 40-hour work week. But most professors I know don't work 40-hour work weeks. It's unheard of. Anyways, yeah, so as far as the writing level, what they're looking for in that first thorough go through of the first page or so, page and a half, is what level are they writing at? How are their paragraphs, transitions, comprehension, diction, word choice, spelling, punctuation, all that stuff, all the details. So they look for patterns. They're not going to read an entire paper, all 3 pages, 5 pages, 7 pages, 10 pages, whatever. They're not going to read all of that. They don't have the time. So you can see here, I mean, just going through it in a relatively cursory manner, 15 minutes, 20 minutes probably at the outset, if there's a little bit of a slowdown. That's a lot of time, 30 hours a week, right? And when I was teaching 4 classes, that was about 120 students, give or take. All right, so that's a lot of papers to be reading every week or every other week. Number 2, your professor may never even see your paper. Some professors have TAs, or they may hire former students to grade papers. Professors set the groundwork for the grading or provide the detail on how points are gained or lost. And then they may monitor their grader until they feel comfortable enough to let them go it alone. Some teachers may even go over the papers after they've been graded. Some professors are not interested and let the grader do all the work, maybe even record the grades. Good thing to ask your professor about if you're so inclined. So who's grading your papers? A hardened professor of 10, 15, 20 plus years, or a TA who doesn't have really any experience to speak of beyond then maybe a semester or 2 of grading papers or teaching, right? Teachers as TAs, teacher's assistant. I've hired students in the past, former students, to help me, and I've sat down with them and I've trained them and I'd let them grade a set of papers, and then I check to see the papers to see how they're doing. And if they're good, I'd let them go. If not, then I'd go through another session. But eventually they'd be on their own, and they would grade the papers and give me the grades, and I would enter them myself and take the papers. And if there was any questions about any of the papers, I would look over them. After a while, I had enough confidence in my assistant to allow them to do the grading. So, and that's legal. It's not like, I or other professors are doing anything out of the ordinary. So that's common fare, but just to let you know. It's not as subjective as you think. That would be grading papers. After the professor or grader knows the lay of the land, what the paper requires, it's relatively easy, even at a quick glance, to know what letter grade the paper should be. So with some experience, I used to tell my students I could throw it up in the air and give it a grade before it hit the ground. Being that familiar with what a grade level would require. A's are basically excellent. Keep that in mind, excellent. Excellent means near perfect, if not perfect, right? B is very good. Some students freak out about very good. C is average, D is below average, and F is failing, right? Uh, and some graders may give a C to a C paper, and the other graders may give a plus or minus. They might go up a little here, a little bit down, a little there, and that's there. You're just talking about 3 or 4 points, so it's not much of a variation. But rarely is there much of an argument as to the general grade level. It's all rather quite objective. And I've talked about this before. I think in the last list, I talked about a bunch of professors getting together at the midterm and grading papers. And we probably 75% of us agreed on the initial read, what the grade should be for a particular paper. Sometimes there was differentiation, but again, if it was a differentiation, it wasn't like somebody saw a C and another person saw an A and another person saw a D or something. We were usually within half a grade or so of each other. 4, what is being asked? Make sure you understand the question being posed to you. This is on a test. It could be an essay. It could be a short essay answer. It could be multiple choice, whatever. Be careful. Students lose points here all too often because they didn't understand the question being posed. Or maybe they did, but at some point got off track, which can quickly drop your grade, right? So staying focused, staying on task, disciplined with your focus and commitment to that focus. Most of these skills that you're acquiring in college are everyday skills that you would use in the workforce, that I use on a regular basis, that I used as a programmer when I was a computer programmer, or my dad used as an engineer, or my friend used as an accountant or a programmer or whatever, right? So being precise and concise and thorough and properly understanding questions posed and responding with an answer that is directly related to the question posed. I mean, these are skills, workforce skills. So, most professors aren't just asking you to do stuff that entertains them or that they think is nice. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, learn it. No, 90% at least, I would say, of most of these things that you're doing or asked to be done, you're being asked to be done, and are requirements that you'll find on a syllabus or course catalog, whatever, are skills, even attitudes, knowledge, of course, but definitely skills that you'll need to acquire for the workforce, right? Professors just care about filling pages. Students often complain that for a 5 to 7 page paper, they can easily cover the topic in 3 pages. It's not the point. Each writing class requires the student to generate a certain number of words by the end of the semester. What's the fascination with word totals? It's all about practice. The more you write, the more you practice getting it right, right? So it's about that. It's just about that. And I think if I remember correctly, some courses required 30,000 words, 40,000 words, 50,000 words generated by the student by the end of the semester. Sometimes I would put that into journal writing, so it wasn't all hardcore disciplined essay writing. Some of it could be a little more free-flowing and fun. But nevertheless, 30,000 words, and I would translate that into papers and quizzes and tests and journals and whatever else, right? So that's what you're doing. You're practicing, right? It's not about just filler, verbiage, I'm sorry. Filler and fluff and uselessness. It's got to be, everything that you write should be specific and germane. There's a nice word for you. Look it up. Germane to the topic at hand or the thesis. 6, just how does that grade distribution work? I hate to burst your bubble, but A's are not as common as you think or wish they were. In the more challenging classes, as you move up year after year, that A gets more and more difficult to acquire. In my freshman comp classes, I give out maybe 20 to 25% A's, while in upper division critical thinking classes, that percentage drops to 10% or less. A critical thinking course, critical thinking, even the initial critical thinking course, a lot of students got bogged down. And I've had classes where I've rarely given out A's and might have just given out a couple of A's, a handful of A's, 2, 3, 4, 5 A's, because that class was extremely challenging. That's the bottom line. And you've heard of grade inflation or curving, and that does happen, but only somewhat. Overall, and here's the key point, most professors are not going to hand out high marks unless the work done is of the highest order. So don't fall into this false notion of, well, I've heard that, the textbooks have been dummied down and the grading is curved and the grading is much easier. They're handing out A's now like candy, or bubble gum, and you just have to show up and get an A and, show up and smile and get an A. No, it doesn't work that way. Number 7, get to the point up front and be quick about it. Yes, please. Thank you. On papers and tests, your best bet is to get to the point as quickly as possible in short essay form answers. On tests, best to put your main point in the first sentence. True. For a short answer, if it's a paragraph or two, you're not writing an essay, so forget about essay form per se. I mean, don't get sloppy. Still make sure it's coherent, well-developed, and unified, and all that good stuff, right? However, you can put the main point or thesis in the last sentence of your essay introduction, but don't go on and on with a filler and fluff before you do so. Students feel that because they have to produce, say, 3 to 5 pages, that they can just wander and fill as they go. No, you must be concise and to the point throughout. You can re-emphasize your point with another example or expert statement, but do not ever just fill the paper with verbiage. There's a good word for it. Look that up. It will not go good for you. All right. So don't shortcut. Don't hope and pray that, I could just fling it on there, throw some filler, do whatever, he or she is gonna curve the grade anyways. Well, I know about grade inflation, a lot of that is misnomers, misinformation. Don't do it. Just do what you're supposed to do. Work hard, do your best job, right? Get to the point up front quick. Being specific not only works well in the classroom, but the workplace as well. Again, this is what I was talking about. Most of these skills that you're acquiring in college to the greatest degree are going to be useful, practically useful in the workplace. If you can't communicate well, that can result in not only a loss of income for your employer, but eventually loss of a job for you. So practice being specific now. For example, instead of saying the car was out of control and almost hit some people, say the bright red Ford Mustang careened out of control, nearly going up on 2 tires and taking out a dozen or more people on the sidewalk. So that's more vivid, that's more specific. And if you're looking to fill the page requirement, probably the best way to go, because I think that is double from the original vague statement. So when you're specific, you're writing more, you're giving more detail, and detail, there you go. That's another workforce skill. Are you detailed oriented? Are you a good communicator? Are you specific? Do you understand instruction? Do you take instruction well? Do you understand questions and how to answer and interpret those questions and so forth and so on, right? All stuff you learn in college. Finish with flair. By the time you get to the end of the paper, it's best to restate the thesis, or better yet, drive home the point you were making all along. Are you proving your point, asking for more insight, just informing whatever that is, whatever that is that you're doing, make it obvious here, right? So it's just, I know some texts and some teachers and some places you hear restate your thesis. That's boring. I mean, if you're sticking to your thesis throughout the paper and your developmental section is just developing, giving examples and expert statements and non-expert statements and data and statistics and facts and details about the thesis. I mean, by the end of the paper. I don't think anybody's going to forget what your thesis is. And you can restate it, I really don't care. That's kind of boring and pointless, but not wrong. You can restate it just to refresh, maybe, I guess. But the thing you're really doing in the conclusion is the why. Why did you write this paper? And then really bring that point home at the end. Okay. That's really what conclusions are for. Few final thoughts. Number one, don't cheat. I and many college professor use or have used turnitin.com. I don't use it anymore because I am turnitin.com, right? I can see a fake paper. Can we say fake? A paper, a paper that wasn't written by the student coming from a mile away. There was one student who was, I think, ESL situation, somewhere from India, I think, maybe, and struggling to get C's in the class. And this was I think it was a freshman comp class. And then at one point, paper 3 or so, all of a sudden I'm getting PhD level papers. And I'm like, wow, when did you go off and get your graduate degree? This is amazing stuff. And I spoke to him and I told him, that's not your writing. And he tried to convince me. And then I started asking, it's very easy to find out, so I picked up the paper and I said, who's this source? What did you mean by this statement? Who is here? You mentioned this source 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Who is that? I just gave him the name, like Donnie Johnson. Who's Donnie Johnson? Where did you get that source from? I know he couldn't answer any of my questions. So, and I said, careful. I'm going to give an F for this paper. I won't report you to the dean or flunk you for the class, but you're on very, very thin ice. That was very nice to him. You can. I mean, if you get caught cheating one time, you get that F. You could get an F for the course and then sent to the dean, academically dismissed for 5 years. Don't do that. After 25 years or 10 years or 15 or 20 years, there's little that can get by your professor, so don't try. If you get caught, get an F, as I said, for the paper, maybe even the course, and you could be academically dismissed. Just say no. Over 25 years, I've rarely changed a grade. In regards to grade changes, I've had a lot of requests for those. Good number. Usually for a mathematical error, if I do change it, it's probably because of my error. Mathematical error, computation error, oversight on my part. But the grade the students get is usually 100% certified and backed up by the professor in question. So good luck. Good luck out there with your paper writing and your test taking. All right. So that's it for now. Until the next list. Take care.